And welcome into the Hard Count. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Last one on the face of the planet. The season right around the corner. If you've watched this show, you've heard me say that now ad nauseum. But we're at this point now where I think it's appropriate for us to have the first Prediction Tuesday of the 2025 season. Now, we will have our predictions for you on the conference champions, on the national champions. All that is coming up around the corner. This show specifically, though, we're going to call our shot for a few different occurrences in the 2025 college football season. Like, for example, what's Oklahoma's record going to Red River? I don't know. What does Carson Beck look like here this upcoming season? Hey, what could we see from Julian Sayin, his first year more than likely as the guy for Ohio State pulling the trigger? We'll unpack all that before we do. College Football Sickos, glad to have y'all here, man. Make sure you're subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. This is college football. Nothing but college football on this show, The Hard Count. I put the call to action on my Twitter page. I want to say it was like Friday night, Saturday night. I just tweeted it out randomly. Didn't even think twice about it. Hey, want to watch a random college football game? Shoot me your recs. And I mean, we got like 200 plus responses. And that made me feel real good, knowing that we got sickos in our mentions, following the show, following on Twitter, all those things. So we appreciate you for that. Bottom line, you're cut from the same cloth as us, being about this sport year round. So welcome home. Make sure you're locked in. The best way to be locked in is by being subscribed. Let's call our shot, though, baby. First prediction up on the board. This is one that got me fired up. Oklahoma, when they play Texas, they're going to be undefeated. Now, hear me clearly when I say that. 5-0 with what Oklahoma was last year. I think the average college football fan hears that and they kind of like perk up a little bit and say, whoa, hang on a second. Brent Venables, Oklahoma? Team that lost to Navy to finish the year? Got a new OC transfer portal quarterback. JD, I like Oklahoma, but undefeated going to Red River. It sounds a lot more crazy than I think it actually would be for Oklahoma to do this. What they have on their schedule to do this and to be 5-0 going to play Texas in the Cotton Bowl, 2 Power 4 opponents. You got Michigan, also graphic by or scheduled by Cato here. You got Michigan, you got Auburn. Okay, so those 2 games, both in Norman, are the ones that you circle as, okay, we got to get this done to be undefeated against Texas. No knock on Temple, no knock on Kent State. I'm not overly worried about either of those games for Oklahoma. If they lose either of those games, they got major problems. But going to those 2 games I just mentioned, Michigan week 2, Auburn week 4. We said this in a previous video. If it's about the quarterback, if it comes down to who does Oklahoma have pulling the trigger versus the other guy, I like Oklahoma in both those matchups, and I don't apologize for it. John Mateer, we have been very high on him on this show for a very long time. I don't need to probably rehash that too much as to why we like his game. But on the other side of things, Michigan, I believe, is going to start Bryce Underwood by nature of how this whole thing has played out over the course of spring and the buzz around there. That'd be his first road start. Now, Bryce Underwood is a bit different, but still, to go on the road to a place like Norman, Oklahoma for your first ever college football road start, that's not an easy task. We're not teeing it up for 19 to have a whole bunch of success. Oh, by the way, you're playing a Brent Venables defense that's going to be aggressive as all get out against a true freshman quarterback early in his career. Now, Bryce Underwood could have an awesome career, but the bottom line here is I'm still leaning Oklahoma in that spot. Okay, great. So now Auburn. Now, Oklahoma beat Auburn a year ago in Jordan-Hare. So now you bring the show back to Norman, advantage Oklahoma. Speaking of Jackson Arnold, though, Sooner fans, I don't think are flinching too much at him being the quarterback for Auburn. And I've been pro Jackson Arnold on this side of things, right? I think he's going to be good for Auburn. But the fact that Brent Venables practiced against him for the better part of the entire season last year, and also he's in your program the year before he was even starting, like there's a lot of, I think, understanding as to what Jackson Arnold is as a quarterback. If there was one coach that was going to know and then expose some tendencies and maybe weaknesses for a Jackson Arnold, it would be his head coach that he's had for the last couple of seasons. A quarterback with turnover concerns as well. So again, I'm leaning Jean Mateer in both those matchups. So you say, JD, that's great. The quarterback isn't everything. What about the rest of the roster? I don't see a true mismatch for Oklahoma with either of those teams, Michigan or Auburn, quite frankly. Like the advantage I think you would point to if you're Michigan is, well, we're just more physical than you. Well, our defense is coming ready to play. Wink Martindale and the boys can have something cooking for old Johnny Mateer in that flow. Yeah, probably so. Ben Arbuckle, though, that's going to be a great coordinator matchup. I don't think it's definitively one way or the other. I think it'll be a great battle, back and forth. I don't think Oklahoma's in a difficult spot relative to Michigan's strengths. Okay, well, Auburn, what do we talk about with them? The receiving core, the potential for explosive plays. Hey, what if Jackson Arnold does have the lights come on and those receivers get busy? I told you, I think Brent Venables and how aggressive that defense is going to be, how exotic they're going to be. I think it'll be some tough looks. I think it'll be a lot of deception for one Jackson Arnold against that receiving core. So even if some guys are eventually getting open, I think that the shot clock will be very much so sped up with how Brent Venables calls that defense, and I think it'll be a difficult task for Jackson Arnold. So let's just say this happens, right? Let's say that we call our shot, hit on our shot. Oklahoma is 5-0 heading into Red River. What does that mean for Norman? What does it mean for that fan base? Well, it means that you got a swaggy, confident Oklahoma walking into this game. And to make sure we're clear on this, Oklahoma, they've said this a couple times. They got shirts that said it. They're not scared of Texas. And that's not a disrespect thing. That's a beautiful part about college football thing. When you play your rival, ask Michigan, when you play your rival, you're not worried about what their record is, what they're ranked, who their head coach is. Oklahoma comes ready to play every single time in this game, outside of not having a quarterback that 1 year where it was 49-0. But they've kind of flushed that from the memory bank in Norman. Oklahoma's not fearing Texas. So if you get an even more confident Oklahoma on the heels of a 5-0 start, on the heels of beating two Power 4 opponents, I think that would be a very interesting storyline to monitor coming into this game. And then let's go ahead and put the cherry on top. Hey, Texas does not have an easy road to this game. Texas, what if they come in with a loss? What if they're reeling a little bit? At Ohio State, at Florida, both obstacles for Texas ahead of Red River. Okay, so I'm not calling my shot that Texas has a loss, but I am saying keep a close eye on that storyline. There's a world now where Oklahoma could be ranked ahead of Texas in Red River. That could happen, and it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world based on what Texas has to do and based on what Oklahoma has to do. So let's walk that through even further. If Oklahoma wins Red River, Oklahoma, Brent Venables gets his second win over Steve Sarkisian. They're two wins against him, and they're 6-0 coming out of Red River. They're 6-0 overall. It's not unreasonable then to start to just, look at the calendar, look at the schedule, and start to just very, very softly ask yourself the question, could we be a playoff team? You don't say it too loud because you don't want to startle anybody. You don't want to get, Twitter up in arms. But, hey, could we maybe mess around and flirt with the college football playoff? Because the math would say you probably got to win 10 games, right? Okay, so you're 6-0. You got to win 4 of those last 6. You can lose 2, which you never count on. But you're confident. Is there a defense that's going to be tougher that you play than that Texas outfit? I think the game at South Carolina is going to be tricky, of course. I mean, the game against LSU to end the year, tricky, of course. Got to go to Tennessee. Got to go to Alabama. All tricky games, but again, if you can drop 2 of those and you're already 6-0 and you have the confidence of beating a Texas team, which I think is probably the most talented roster you'll play, I don't think it's crazy. So to make it clear, our prediction is they're 5-0 heading into Red River, but the ripple effect of that could be monstrous. Could be monstrous for the rest of college football, for the SEC, and for the playoff in itself. So shot call, prediction Tuesday, off and running. Oklahoma undefeated heading into Red River. Go ahead and book that one. Now here's a fun one. We'll go out to Brent Venables' old stomping grounds for our next prediction out in the ACC. Clemson, they're going to have not one, no. They're going to have 2 all-conference wide receivers when that all-ACC team comes out at the end of the 2025 season. This is the secret sauce that has college football fans buzzing right now and having everybody that actually knows something about ball taking a peek over at Clemson's roster and saying, yeah, the returning production's nice. Yeah, Dabo Sweeney, couple rings on his finger, good vibe. Yeah, Cade Klubnik, we'll talk about him in a second. But this Clemson team, with what they have at receiver, starts to feel a little bit like vintage Clemson, doesn't it? And the first question that Clemson fans are asking relative to my prediction, I think tells you everything you need to know about how they feel about their receiver position right now. Because the question was, well, JD, 2 all-conference receivers, who got left off? Antonio Williams, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, Tristan Smith, the transfer, Tyler Brown, he's still there. A lot of names for Clemson in that receiver room. When was the last time we had that many names to unpack as to guys that could maybe find themselves on an all-conference team? It's been a minute. It's been several minutes, actually. The last time that Clemson had more than one all-conference wide receiver, take a guess, the year 2020. Now, in that 2020 season, as weird as it was, Clemson found themselves in the college football playoff semifinals, playing Ohio State. So it's not hard to see how this whole thing could shake out. If you have dudes on the outside, you're going to be in a good position to compete for some postseason hardware. And Clemson has that, again, based on all those names I just mentioned. So speaking to the vintage Clemson teams and speaking to what Clemson wants to accomplish here, let's go ahead and say that this ends up happening, right? Well, the good news for Clemson is you got a quarterback back there in Cade Klubnik, who we alluded to before. He can actually pull the trigger for you. Because the most frustrating thing would be for this to not match up and have a receiver room but no quarterback to maximize the receiver room and, okay, we're kind of doing palms up at the end of the year like woulda, shoulda, coulda. That's not the case. You have a guy now going into his third year in the system, a guy who I think this team feels confident in. More importantly, Cade Klubnik, I have to think, feels more confident in himself in the system. It's all starting to align here. So if they have 2 all-ACC selections at receiver, that means Cade Klubnik probably was who you thought he was. Probably means that Clemson, if they didn't win the ACC, they probably made a deep playoff run with the nature of the talent they have, or at least have the potential to make a deep playoff run. I think the ripple effect from a several years down the road point of view for Clemson is what gets me excited if I'm a Clemson fan. Because if you have 2 all-conference receivers, you can then start to market yourself once again as a wide receiver conversation piece. Now, I'm not saying Clemson is wide receiver U. I think there's still a lot of discussion to be had around Ohio State and LSU and all that. But remember those old Clemson teams that used to come out in warmups with wide receiver U across the front of their chest? And you had people that would object to it, but it was a real conversation because of guys they had in the league. DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, you go down the line. That was a real thing you could say because you had proof in the pudding. Now, if Clemson is able to market themselves that way and attract other top talent to come to Clemson, South Carolina and play receiver, and the offense stays explosive and the vibes stay good, that is a non-negotiable in new college football. I say new college football as regarding to the 12-team format and probably the 14, 16, however many teams we put in this dance going forward, because you got to have some giddy up and go to win at a high level in college football in the postseason. It has to happen. You cannot win rock fight after rock fight, which Clemson has no intention of doing, but for the rest of college football, it's not a formula you can win with anymore. It's not. And so to have the freedom to be big play-ish, to have guys that can actually go win their matchups, I love the way they're built, man. I love the way they're built, and I think this happening, 1, I'm predicting it's going to happen. 2, this happening and what it would mean for Clemson football for years to come, be huge. Be very, very huge for all the reasons I just mentioned. So go ahead and take that one to the bank. Clemson, they will have not 1 but 2 all ACC wide receivers, and I'm excited to come back on that here in a few months and take a victory lap there. So that's one Tiger that we got off our Prediction Tuesday list, but we got another Tiger to talk through here. LSU is going to be playing for an SEC championship on Saturday, December 6th of 2025. Will they win it? I don't know. But if they make the SEC championship, they're probably in the college football playoff. Scratch that. They're definitely in the college football playoff. But let's break all this down right now. LSU, I've said before on previous shows for those that watch, they are my frozen pizza team of 2025. Last year, my frozen pizza team was Notre Dame. This year, it's LSU. I say that just to let you know, if we have a team in the frozen pizza category, it usually means we got a pretty good handle on them and what they're going to be here in this upcoming season. We liked Notre Dame a lot last year. The offseason continued to progress, and we started to like them more and more. Season goes on, and they go play for a national title. What I mean by frozen pizza team is we've all had our Red Baron or your DiGiorno, or Publix actually has a tremendous frozen pizza for those of y'all that don't know. But frozen pizza, it sounds good for dinner, probably for most of us that have a pulse and have working taste buds. But that frozen pizza, once it gets to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 a.m., you're like, dang, I could go for some of that. That's how I feel about LSU right now. The season ends, I'm like, good team. I like Brian Kelly. I like Garrett Nussmeier. I like the roster, all those things. But the offseason progresses. Get through spring ball. You look more at the roster, look more at the SEC. I'm like, gosh, dang, I'm not so sure I'm not going to pick LSU, not just to play for an SEC title. I might pick them to go win the whole darn thing. We pump the brakes, but that's just, I'm telling you, that's the vibe I have right now with the Tigers. The longer you look at them, you're like, why not LSU? What is LSU lacking that just makes this a ridiculous statement? Why you wouldn't pick them to win the conference? Quarterback? Nope. Most proven commodity in the country at quarterback going into next season. And he's only going to get better, you'd have to believe. Physically, yeah, sure, year 2 in Joe Sloan's system, you would hope just he's able to progress and take more strides there. Awesome. But I think mentally and emotionally, we spoke to this before. You know what I think Garrett Nussmeier was lacking a year ago? a full year of actually playing college football as a starting quarterback. It's not his fault. Like, there were things that Garrett Nussmeier didn't know or wasn't privy to last year because he hadn't actually played the position in certain spots last year. What I mean by that is, like, look at the game against A&M. Playoff game, on the road, a playoff game of sorts, I would say, when it comes to implications. It was his first time ever in his life feeling the weight of what that moment was. Now, this year, when they go to Alabama, November 8th, on the road, Tuscaloosa, similar kind of vibe, you have to think. I think Bama will be pretty good. I think there'll be probably some playoff implications here. Think about the mental space that Garrett Nussmeier was in a year ago to the mental space he'll be in this year going into that game. Have to think more confident, have to think he knows more of what to expect, have to think he feels just emotionally in a more composed spot. All of those things make for better athletic performance. All of those things will make for a better Garrett Nussmeier. So you check the box. Okay, quarterback, feel good. Yo, everything else around LSU, the word I would use, it feels more sturdy to me. It does. Like, there's continuity at coordinator. Joe Sloan, cool. Blake Baker, great on the defensive side of things. Okay, awesome. That's a good vibe. Top 2 portal class from LSU. We said it before. They're actually playing to win in the portal, not just participating. They took 18 transfers. 8 of those cats from the SEC. Only 2 were non-Power 4 transfers. One of those guys was a punter. Shout out to punters worldwide. But, like, the bottom line is they're taking guys in the portal that have played and produced, and you know what you're getting in them. Barian Brown, Nick Anderson, Patrick Payton. There's guys that you can actually plug in play and say, okay, we know what you are. You're going to help us. Instead of, oh, we got this guy from a lower level. We hope he's able to fill some holes for us. Oh, this guy's a backup. Hope he can help us out. The roster just feels like it's in a better place. Now, here's the pushback we'll get and pushback we've already gotten, and I feel more than equipped to handle this. People are going to say, well, JD, what about the Brian Kelly effect of it all? Is Brian Kelly good? Should we be worried about Brian Kelly? It's year 4, so your culture should be in place, and he should kind of have it be his football team now, and that should be solidified. Is Brian Kelly holding you back? Brian Kelly's coached 21 years of college football and won 73% of his games. Doesn't sound like someone that's going to hold you back to me. Has he won a national championship yet? Not yet. Does that mean that he's a bad football coach? I don't think. Again, 21 years, won 73% of his games. If you think he's the problem, go ahead and touch grass. Well, JD, but we had Jaden Daniels and we didn't win the national. Yeah, I understand that. But who brought Jaden Daniels in? Who brought Mike Denbrock in for that magical run? How bad could it have been if you didn't have a quarterback out there with a Swiss cheese defense? So I feel very strongly about this. I think Brian Kelly is more than good enough for you this year. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't happen. They said it about Ryan Day. They said it about Kirby Smart. Is Brian Kelly the next guy to get off that list? I don't think it's irresponsible to think that thought. So when we speak to this discussion, though, again, this prediction is about them playing for the SEC championship in Atlanta. So it's pretty fair to talk about the other teams in the conference they would have to compete with to then get to Atlanta. LSU has the least amount of big question marks to me paired with the most known commodity at quarterback, which we already spoke to. But across the conference, who's playing quarterback for Bama? Georgia's got Gunnar Stockton. I think he's going to be good, but, like, we'll see. Arch Manning, same deal. He's still got to prove it. Austin Simmons still got to prove it. And then there's a lot of other teams that you feel good about their quarterback position, but you're wondering if they're able to really put it all together, right? Like Florida and DJ Lagway. I like DJ Lagway. Do they have the juice to go compete for an SEC championship? We'll see. I mean, Auburn, Jackson Arnold, I like him. I've said a lot about his upside. We'll see if they can put it together. There's a lot there. A&M, same deal. Can they actually put it together? So for LSU, there's still some put-it-together questions, but I feel the best about the roster. With Brian Kelly, with Garrett Nussmeier, they will be in Atlanta playing for the conference on December 6th. Make no mistake about it. So let's keep a good thing going here, man. Staying in the quarterback position. Julian Sayin, I really believe is going to be your starter for Ohio State. But my prediction, with it being Prediction Tuesday on this show, prediction is that Julian Sayin not just starts for Ohio State. That's boring. We've already said that before. Y'all, Julian Sayin is going to lead the Big Ten in passing. Let that sizzle. Let it sit for a second. While you're doing that, one, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. College football, nothing but college football all year round. Buckeye fans, y'all been locking in with us. We're glad to have y'all here. Welcome home. Big virtual hug of sorts. So subscribe to the channel. Also follow me, Instagram, Twitter, @JD PicKell. Let me know your big prediction here for the 2025 college football season. Heck, if you even agree with this one. Now, listen, we feel very strongly about this. The reason being, trends aren't everything, right? But there's something. Since 2018, Ohio State has led the Big Ten, or an Ohio State quarterback has led the Big Ten in passing every single year but one. That was 2023 when Kyle McCord finished second in the conference. And everyone was saying how bad Kyle McCord was. That guy sucks. He's not an Ohio State brand quarterback. The next year, Honda McCord, as they called him, went and led all of college football in passing. So Ohio State, one, there's a trend there. Two, I think what this really more specifically points to me is like Ryan Day just gets good quarterbacks, dude. It's not really novel analysis. There's not really any deep dive there. Ryan Day and Ohio State, they get good quarterbacks, and they go ahead and they maximize them. How do they maximize them? The Brian Hartline of it all. Cato and I talk about that a lot. We use that almost as like an overarching label, the Ryan Day of it all, the Brian Hartline of it all, just kind of the all-encompassing umbrella term that you can put to any given situation or point. And it's not necessarily a super specific way to describe it, but you get what I'm getting at, right? It all makes sense. The Brian Hartline of it all is the fact that, one, the receiving core that he has acquired for Ohio State is second to none. That's not really, I don't think, up for debate. Take Jeremiah Smith out of that discussion for a second. And Ohio State still has 4 wide receivers that out of high school were top 10 at the position. Put the cherry on top there, you got Max Clare, tight end from Purdue, transferring in, who had the most receiving yards for a tight end last year in the Big Ten by a player not named Tyler Warren. So he's going to have some guys to throw to, okay? So they go ahead and fill in that blank. The second part of the Brian Hartline of it all is the fact that he's calling the plays. What do you think whenever a former offensive lineman or a former offensive line coach gets passed the keys to call the plays for a football team? What do you immediately think? Y'all, they're going to pound the freaking rock. Run the heck out of that thing, man. Battering ram. 34 wham every single down. Let's roll. Well, Brian Hartline is a former wide receiver coach. What do you think the offense is maybe going to lean towards? What's going to be the personality of this offense? I think they're going to throw the heck out of it. I think that's pretty fair, I think, for us to have that assumption right now. Because last year, as good as Jeremiah Smith was and as great as he finished the season, Ohio State was like 89th in the country when it came to passes per game. They didn't really air it out. When did they start airing it out? Playoff run. That was when they started to put the ball in the air a little bit more. Why was that? Because I think that everybody realized, they had it illuminated to them that they have the best receiving core. They need to make sure they are a factor every single week, every single game. They have to lean on that edge. And so the personality of what I just said, Brian Hartline, he's going to make sure they feed their receivers. But two, with what you lost last year, no more Henderson, no more Judkins. As good as I think James Peoples going to be, as good as I think C.J. Johnson's going to be in that backfield for them, the strength of this team is their wide receiving core. And so for Julian Sayin and his talent and all that we've talked about ad nauseum, he's going to have guys to deliver the football to, and they're going to make it a point to deliver the football to them consistently. So I feel the obligation to say this every time we talk about Julian Sayin, because I think it's being wildly under-talked about. The way that guy is wired competitively, the fact to go pick Ohio State after transferring out of Alabama when Nick Saban retired, tells me everything I need to know about the guy when it comes to his desire to compete. And having a desire to compete isn't necessarily, a differentiating factor for you in college football, but I tell you what, it's increasingly becoming that way. Having someone who wants to go develop and get better and choose the hard thing, Julian Sayin, having that be his path to Ohio State, just makes me like the guy. On top of the fact that he's a 5-star talent, was graded the most accurate passer in his cycle. That included DJ Lagway. I'm riding with Julian Sayin from a talent perspective. But the trend, the Brian Hartline effect, the receiving core, the personality, all that, Julian Sayin will lead the Big Ten in passing in 2025. So if that's the case now, Ohio State, surprise, surprise, once again, in very much so contention to repeat as national champions and a chance to go get a Big Ten championship here for Ryan Day in 2025. But Julian Sayin, the rich stay rich. They'll have a dude at quarterback in Columbus. A lot of quarterbacks on today's show. Some of that, I guess, is just the fact that, the most important position in sports and definitely the most important position in college football. This is going to sound like a draft prediction. I assure you it's not. Carson Beck is going to play his way back into being a first-round pick. You just said, JD, you just said it wasn't going to be a draft segment. It's not. Roll with me here. When Cam Ward was at Miami and when he transferred to Miami, think about the things that were being said about him as it pertained to how he's going to fit at Miami and how he's going to project in 2025. A lot of the discussion was, well, hey, we just want to see him do it against better competition. We like the upside. We think he's got good tools. We want to see him actually do it, though, against better football players on defense. We're not saying that with Carson Beck. We're saying we want to see it again. We want to see better decisions. We're not saying any of the things we said about Cam Ward that we said about Carson Beck right now. When we were sitting here a year ago, what was the thing being said? Projected number 1 overall pick, projected Heisman Trophy guy. After this year at Georgia, he's gone to the league, all SEC the year before. And that all came crashing down when Georgia wasn't able to run the football, led America in drops, all that. And so some of this I want to make sure. There's a lot that you put on Carson Beck that he is responsible for, but there's also, I think, a pretty healthy dose that he gets put on him that wasn't actually, I think, Carson Beck's fault. When you can't run the football, defenses don't have to worry about stacking the box, can key on the pass game. Even when you make bad decisions, I mean, you pay for your worst decisions a little bit more because that secondary is in a Johnny-on-the-spot kind of situation. They're in good position to make a play on the football. So in this system for Shannon Dawson, it's much more, to me, QB-friendly, but not just the system for Carson Beck. Like, let's be adults. I like the situation for Carson Beck. I like the fact that he got out of a place where he underperformed. I think he'd tell you that in Georgia last year. And he's in a totally just different spot. He's from the state of Florida, so mentally you hope there's a reset there a little bit for him. But also he's playing against, not Texas and Bama and Tennessee every single week. Instead, you got Louisville and Pitt and Stanford, and that's not me saying that I don't think the ACC is still a good conference, but we can understand there's a lot less draft picks from the defensive side year in and year out from the ACC than there is from the SEC. So if you're Carson Beck, you're in a better position to shred at that point. And then the system, going back to this, they're going to let him strut his stuff. They're going to let him push the ball downfield. Last year, Miami was, I want to say, top 10 in the country when it came to yards per pass. A lot of that was Cam Ward saying, I'm going to go do me, I'm going to go cook. All right? Shannon Dawson allows his quarterback to cook as much as they want to. And so that's the big, I think, hinge point here for Carson Beck and this whole prediction coming through. Are you able to flush what last year was at Georgia? And everyone's talking about how you underachieved in Georgia, even winning the SEC, talking about how they didn't achieve their ultimate goal of winning the national championship. If he's able to flush that mentally and able to then embrace this new system and make up for missing spring practice to keep it a buck, I love everything about this situation for him. Now, here's the thing I can already hear coming in the comment section, so let's address it. What about the girlfriend stuff? About my guy on TikTok? Is he focused on football? Well, it's been reported by other outlets that don't cover college football that he is no longer in the relationship that we were talking about here a second ago. I love that for Carson Beck. I love the no girlfriend part of it for my guy. Well, I'm not saying correlation is causation, but single Carson Beck, I believe, was the guy who was all SEC a year ago, if we're going to go by that logic. I love the idea now that he's able to hopefully lock in on some football. Still has to do it, but I don't hate that part of it for him. So to put it all in perspective here, if you're Miami and Carson Beck does play his way into being a first-round pick yet again, the tools, people check the box, okay, great, but you see the decision-making, the numbers, all that, the film matches up. What does it mean for the Hurricanes? It means you get a second chance at fixing your defense. It means you don't have to hit the entire reset button on what you've done to this point if you're Mario Cristobal. Because last year, the offense was good enough to win a national championship, and it was squandered by a no-good defense. And Mario Cristobal, we've had him on the show, he's been extremely forthright in that. He's been hand up, that's on us, we got to be better, we got exposed, not good enough. Okay, this is a chance now, though, where if your defense is good enough this year, and Carson Beck plays like a first-rounder, what's Miami competing for? Are they competing for the ACC? Are they in the playoff? A better defense a year ago would say yes, absolutely. So I'm not asking Carson Beck to be Cam Ward, but I am saying if he plays to his potential, if he is able to make better decisions and is able to take advantage of the Shannon Dawson system and the weapons that I actually am probably higher on the most, they're going to be in a spot to really make some noise here in the month of November and maybe December for the college football world. So Carson Beck, I'm going to go ahead and I'll buy the dip here. He will be once again in that first round discussion by nature of how he balls in 2025. So like I said, a lot of quarterback talk on today's show, and we don't apologize for that. One of the most important positions, again, the most important position in the sport of college football. I think the most important position in sports, period. But here's a fun prediction for us to get the juices flowing a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and predict that there is, when the Heisman Trophy ceremony happens, and we get all our finalists, more often than not, it seems like it's been 4 as of late for the folks in New York. Among that group of 4, there's going to be 2 of those individuals that are not quarterbacks. We'll unpack that right now. Before we do that, make sure you're subscribed to College Football, nothing but college football year-round. If you're a sicko, welcome home. This is college football and only college football. So thank you for being locked in. So here's why I feel this way. Across college football, we've talked about this a lot, there is a ton of uncertainty at the quarterback position with your usual suspects that would be national title contenders. Now, why does that matter for an individual award? I don't know, but the people that vote on the Heisman Trophy, it seems to matter to them. When you're playing in the postseason, what have we seen often? The Heisman Trophy, historically, outside of the last couple of years, has gone to the quarterback on the best team, or trending towards the best team, or trending towards competing for a national championship. A lot of those teams that you would put in that category, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, talk this through some more, Ohio State, they all have new quarterbacks. And so this isn't me saying that those guys aren't still going to be good, but I think it's fair to assume there's a learning curve, and maybe they're not all good. Maybe even the ones that are good, are they playing at a Heisman Trophy caliber? We'll see. So the other part of that, to me, which makes this prediction a prediction for me, is there's a lot of other players that I would say are non-quarterbacks that you could choose from. You don't really need to squint too tough to see them in New York as a Heisman finalist. We saw it last year. Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, 2 non-quarterbacks, Heisman Trophy finalists. The last time we saw this happen, for the record, was a decade ago, 2015, 2016. We had back-to-back years where we had 2 non-quarterback finalists, so this would be a bit of an anomaly to a degree. But in terms of who could be in this discussion, a couple of different categories for me. There's the force feed category, where like if the offense goes through these guys and they play to their physical potential, they'll probably be in this discussion without a finalist. Like Jeremiah Smith is going to be the best player in college football next year. Whether he's a Heisman finalist or not, that is the truth. You'll turn on the College Football 26 video game, and Jeremiah Smith, I happen to believe, will be the highest rated player. Okay, full stop. Jeremiah Love, the other Jeremiah that gets forgotten about a little bit in the discussion for Jeremiah of the year, he will be the one who I think is the catalyst for the Notre Dame offense. And the nice part about this, too, you'd think with no more you'll still have quarterback run, but with less quarterback run baked in there, with no Riley Leonard and C.J. Carr back there throwing the ball for you, maybe you get a lighter box. Maybe you get some more explosive plays. Also, if he's able to stay healthy for the entirety of a year, we've seen what he can be. So he could put up big numbers. That's one category. There's the other category where there's just a lot of juice, and the guy that leads this category to me is like a Ryan Williams. How good was he early on in last year? Like after the Georgia game, I think he was on a lot of people's Heisman Trophy boards, so to speak. We did a top 10 ranking for us here at On 3 for our Heisman Trophy pulse, if you will, every single week. And Ryan Williams was in that top 10, I want to say, up until the very last week of the season. So you have that category. And then you have the defensive players. And I know it sounds wild, but just roll with me for a second. Caleb Downs, I think, is going to be the best defensive player in college football. It has been flirted with openly. Do we get my guy some snaps on offense? And I don't even need to have Caleb Downs have like 30 carries and 400 yards and a couple touchdowns for him to be in this discussion. I'm saying just like the right moments when voters are watching, do we get Caleb Downs a couple of different plays where he gets in the end zone or has a nice explosive play? If that happens and Caleb Downs does what Caleb Downs does on the defensive side, I think you could see him in New York City. And then the other defensive player that has to be mentioned is Dylan Stewart from South Carolina. Could he go full Aiden Hutchinson or Chase Young? And again, make sure this is clear. I'm not saying these guys actually win the Heisman Trophy. I'm saying when it comes to who's on that stage to be a finalist, I think we'll have more than one non-quarterback up for that award. Again, there is no returning Caleb Williams or Bryce Young or anyone that's just like, you're oh yeah, for sure he's a Heisman finalist kind of guy because he's been in that discussion before. I think Kate Clemson's going to be good. I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be good. Lenore Sellers, we've bought all the stock we can find. But for the Heisman Trophy, I think this discussion will be a lot more intriguing because of what I just mentioned with all those players that could make something happen and be in the Heisman Trophy ceremony and be finalists. Now, one more thing I want to make sure we say here before we move on. This discussion around the Heisman, I think, has gotten a little bit more nuanced as the playoff has expanded. Because we said it before. It used to be if you're playing for a national championship or your team is one of those 3 or 4 teams about to play for a national championship, then we look at you a little bit more closely. And if we're a voter in Wichita, Kansas, we just lazily look at the rankings, look at the box score, look at the best team and the best player. We say, okay, great, we'll go and put this, vote in for our guy, and we'll go from there. Not really watching college football quite as closely as maybe you would hope someone with a Heisman vote would do. What I think the expanded playoff has done, one of the positives that I'm a fan of, honestly, for this playoff, is it has impacted the way that we have to watch November football. Because if you're watching the Big 12, you're like, who's getting in the conference title game? I mean, Colorado has a shot. Kansas State's got a shot. Baylor's got a shot. Iowa State. That's a conversation happening the last couple weeks of the season. We're not even sure how that thing was going to shake out. There's it felt like 18 teams that had a chance to be in the conference title game going into that last week of the season. So what I'm trying to say is that the amount of impactful games that voters, I think, will watch more closely, I think that's going to allow for more actual football to be watched and more good players to shine. I think that's a reason why you got to see so much Ashton Genty a year ago, outside of him doing ridiculous numbers. Travis Hunter, same thing, with Colorado being in the Big 12 title hunt. People got to see more of him. Guys that I don't know they would get as much shine as they deserve if the average Heisman voter wasn't tuned into the playoff race. Just my own thought on this. So, again, I hope this happens because I think it'd be good for the sport in terms of actual college football being watched. But regardless, I can't wait to see how it all shakes out, and I can't wait to see how that playoff race continues to impact the Heisman Trophy. Not trying to make the Heisman Trophy the main point or the end-all be-all here, but it's one of the, I think, few positives of expanding the playoff. Another show for another time, though, when it comes to the other positives or negatives of the expanded playoff. But that's kind of bad vibes to have that discussion right now. Let's switch to some good vibes here, dude. This hit my timeline over the course of the weekend, and it just got me fired up a little bit. This time of year, you got the college football video game that drops. You got media days around the corner. You got the preview magazine start to come out. There's a couple of things that hit your timeline that just kind of feel like football or make you feel like college football is close. And something that I saw this weekend was Sam Levit, Arizona State quarterback, out here doing a little quarterback workout, shorts and a T-shirt. But, dude, the way he was slinging that thing around the yard just got the juices flowing a little bit. That college football was about to be back. Go ahead and check this out. Watch the ball pop out of my guy's hand. The arm angle there, the headband. My guy's from Westland, Oregon, wearing a headband should tell you everything you know about the way that he got the swag on. If you're an Arizona State bettor or an Arizona State fan, this made you feel good. All the throws, the off-platform stuff, dropping in a bucket kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know that enough people got to see how good Sam Levit actually is until when they played Texas a year ago. This is not new for Sam Levit. Check out the lower third there from Cato watching on YouTube. Levit letting it fly. That's actually, as money. That's some of the best work. Some of the best work. I don't think people know how good Sam Levit actually is. And so if you're a Big 12 watcher or you're an Arizona State fan like I alluded to before, this isn't so surprising to see this dude throwing the ball like that. But for people that were just scrolling the timeline and saw him throwing the ball, like, oh, whoa, that's a little bit different. Yeah, it's shorts and a T-shirt. Yeah, I'm sure there was only the best clips taken to put in that little montage there. But still, he is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And it's not me taking that from the workout, making that point. That's me actually watching the games last year, like a lot of y'all did, and seeing what he was for Arizona State throughout the course of last season. So the vibes are good. That gets you fired up. That makes you feel like college football is right around the corner. But I think the bigger discussion around Arizona State, if we want to have that for a second, look at what Arizona State is right now. Top 2 in returning production in college football. They lose Cam Scadaboo. Bummer. Go out and get Kanye Udo from Army. Shout out my guy. 1,100 yards rushing last year, 6.2 yards per carry. Is he going to be Cam Scadaboo? I don't know about that. But the plan for Arizona State, I have to believe, is to have Sam Levit, Jordan Tyson run the show for you, man. And then Kanye Udo, get in where you fit in, baby. Set the tone, run the ball, all those things make us multiple. But I don't think you need to have a Cam Scadaboo kind of effort from Kanye Udo. Why? Because you got a quarterback in Sam Levit who you are counting on to be the freaking dude for you. Kenny Dillingham did an interview with Colin Cowherd. I want to say it was last week. And Cowherd, who we're a fan of on this show, asked him a really good question as to the next steps for a Sam Levit. And I thought Dillingham's answer was really interesting. He essentially said, our next step for him is to turn the offense over more to him on early downs, to have him be the pace setter, to have him be the guy that we are trusting to get us in the right situations and kind of set the tone for our offense. When you trust your quarterback on first and second down, everything else can kind of flow from that, and then you can kind of take over and you really get to rocking. One, insightful answer. Two, if that ends up being the case and what you saw in that video translates over to what you see during the college football season in 2025, Arizona State will once again be in that discussion to be in the playoff and win the Big 12 for the second year in a row. And I think the overall vantage point on Arizona State is interesting in modern college football because Kenny Dillingham has been saying it for a while, but it's just now starting to become a reality. Arizona State and the whole sleeping giant talk is fun for social media. It makes a great, headline for an article. But legitimately, I don't think the rest of the world knows how much good high school football is played in the state of Arizona. And if you put a fence around that state and keep those dudes home, I'm not saying you win national championships every single year, but you should have enough to go compete for a Big 12 championship every single year. You should have enough to go maximize what Sam Levit is. You should have enough to go maximize what else you have from an NIL perspective and be able to push that whole thing forward. So the on-field product, I think, is going to create this momentum for the off-the-field stuff with recruiting and NIL. And with a guy like Kenny Dillingham to get that momentum continuing to go to the right place with this Sam Levit juice that we got going already, I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. The fun part of this is good vibes, and we like to see it on the timeline, but you start to talk about Arizona State and what they could be. Kenny Dillingham's got the boys buzzing, and Sam Levit's got us buzzing on this show, so we don't apologize for that in the slightest. Not in the slightest. Hey, send me your frozen pizza takes. That's kind of the end of the show, but I just want to say this with y'all. Send us your frozen pizza takes, your teams that, or your players that, or your takes that as the season continues to get closer. You look at your team, look at your take, look at your player. You're like, hey, maybe I think I'm more in on that than I was even before. For me, I have a frozen pizza story. Reheated some frozen pizza this past Saturday. It took a bite, burned the roof of my mouth to the point where it drew blood. Don't apologize for that, okay? Everybody's got a plan. One of y'all tweeted this at me. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face or get a pizza burn on the roof of their mouth till it draws blood, all right? And we are embracing that. That is LSU for us. We have other takes that we'll bring to the table here in the frozen pizza variety. But let me know the hill that you're dying on, the pizza burn that you're willing to have, and what you're expecting for the 2025 season, man. The first prediction Tuesday of 2025 college football season is upon us. It's in the books. Excited to hear from y'all again on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, @JD PicKell. Caden Smith, Cato on the ones and twos, making it all go. Y'all making this show go, making it what it is. We appreciate y'all being a part of this. Subscribe on your way out the door. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all.